Business owners, look at this. People are out here taking their entire life savings and lighting on fire on the single worst business they could have possibly bought at their price point. And they don't even find out until it was the wrong move, until the money is already gone. So I'm gonna walk you through the ladder. 25 grand, 100 grand, 500 grand, a million and up. At every single budget, I'm gonna tell you the worst thing people actually buy. Then the smart alternative that cash flows instead of bleeds. Because the budget isn't the problem. The decision is the problem. And I'm about to fix that decision. Subscribe if you're tired of broke advice and you want the version the wealthy actually run. I'm Joshua Jones, Mr. OPM. My firm structured over $323 million in capital, and I teach operators how to buy and scale with other people's money. So let's get into it. At 25 grand, the worst thing you can buy is the turnkey online store someone's selling in your slick DM, the dropship site, the automated Amazon passive income store, the digital thing with no real assets, no contracts, and no moat. You're not buying a business, you're buying somebody else's headache that stopped working, which is exactly why it's for sale at a price that feels too good to be true. If it printed money, they'd never sell it to a stranger on the internet. The small alternative to that budget, a small service route with real recurring revenue, a cleaning route, a vending or laundry route, a junk removal or pressure washing operation with actual customers who pay every month. It's unsexy, it's local, and it's a cash flowing on day one because there's real customers paying the real invoice, not a dashboard promising you freedom while you refresh at 2 a.m. At 100 grand, the worst buy is a struggling restaurant or the trendy fad franchise that's already cooling off. Somebody's selling you their dream at peak hype. The build out's gonna eat you alive. The margins are razor thin before you even make a mistake, and you're inheriting all their problems with none of their experience. You paid 100 grand to buy yourself the most stressful job you'll ever have. The smart alternative at 100 grand is an established laundromat or a small commercial cleaning company with contracts already in place. Boring, reoccurring, semi-absentee, and here's the move. At this level, the seller will often finance a chunk of it themselves, which means you're not even putting 100 grand down. You're structuring a deal where the business's own cash flow makes the payment. Same budget, completely different life. At $500,000, the worst thing people buy is the bar or the nightclub, the fun business. You're buying late nights, liability, theft you'll never fully see, a liquor license with a headache, and a revenue stream that depends on a crowd being loyal to a vibe. And crowds are loyal to nothing. The fun businesses are where serious money goes to die because you fell in love with a lifestyle instead of a ledger. The smart alternative at 500 grand is to self-storage or an established HVAC or plumbing book of business with a service contract base. Now you're buying reoccurring, essential, defensible cash flow. The metal doors that pay you monthly, or the home service company whose phone rings every time it hits 100 degrees. And at this level, you bring in the SBA 7A, which funds up to 90% of the deal when you come with the real blueprint. So your own cash stays liquid and the bank carries a risk it was built to carry. At $1 million plus, the worst buy is the single location trophy, the fine dining restaurant, the one shiny, sexy company that all depends on one location, one chef, one personality, one thing going right. You're paying a premium for prestige, and prestige is not cash flow. The second that thing wobbles, the whole million wobbles with it. The small alternative is a multi-location service business or an established manufacturing distribution company with locked-in contracts and a management team that already runs without the owner. That's the difference between buying a job and buying a machine. You want the business that survives the owner walking out the door, because if it can't run without him, you didn't buy a business. You bought his job at premium. At this level, you stack seller financing, SBA, and private capital together into a structure where the business services its own debt and you keep your equity protected the whole way through. You see what just happened across every budget? Every single worst was sexy, emotional, and fragile, and every single smart was boring, reoccurring, and essential. That's not by accident. That's the difference between people who who own assets and people who own expensive stress. You're not buying excitement, you're buying cash flow. And cash flow is boring on purpose. So before you spend $1 at any budget, ask one question. Is this thing gonna pay me, or am I gonna pay and spend the next 3 years paying for it? If you can't answer that with a real number, you're not ready to buy yet. And that's okay, because now you know what to look for. Comment OPM if you want the breakdown on structuring an acquisition with other people's money at your budget. Subscribe so you stop getting sold the dream and start getting the playbook. And I'll see you in the next one.